Hi, my name is Chef David Weir. I'm a chef instructor here at Daytona State College, and I'm going to demonstrate for you some basic fruit and vegetable carving techniques that we generally call Garde Manger. As you can see, I have some already done, but I'm going to show you some of the basic techniques that we do, starting from the most simple going up to the most complex. The most simple one I have here is called a tomato rose. We generally just take a whole tomato, and I like to start by cutting at the bottom and working my way very thin around, just peeling off just the skin of the tomato. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to cut as thin as possible, because if I leave too much of the meat of the tomato on there, I'm not going to be able to roll it up nicely. And I'm also, as I'm doing it, trying not to stay so exact. I want a little bit of imperfection in what I cut. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but things in nature are not perfect. So if I cut something that looks so perfect, it won't look as natural when I go for the final presentation. And as you can see, it's just a matter of focusing and working your way around the tomato, trying not to cut through the skin, and just coming off in one nice, long, thin strip, just like that. And then once I have that done, I simply lay it out as flat as possible, and I just roll it up. Some chefs will show you to do this without cutting that bottom piece like that, but my feeling every time I've done that, it doesn't look complete. You'll see actually a hole right through the center of it. So when I roll it up like this, it'll look like a complete flower, and if it cooperates, it'll stay together. And I can add that to my display. The other easiest one is from the base of a head of celery. And all I do here is I just start from the outside, and I just cut on an angle. And I just keep cutting the stalks of celery off. And as I peel them off, you'll see that it'll make a natural looking flower. And it doesn't take but a couple of minutes to really do some of this stuff. A lot of what I'm showing you today is not really complicated. It looks complicated, but it just takes a little bit of patience and practice. And as you build up your skill level, it'll become easier and easier. You know, part of it is just knowing the nature and the structure of the vegetables that you're working with in the course of doing what you need to do. So there I have probably one of the simplest flowers you'll see. And then all of this, obviously, I save for vegetables and stock or whatever I need it for. Moving up to a little bit more complicated flower is, this would be what we refer to as a carved flower. So I actually need to take, this is a turnip, I'm going to just cut off the turnip greens there. And as I do this, I'm going to start around the outside, and I'm going to cut in. I want to make 5 petals. As you'll notice, I'm cutting in at an angle, but not all the way through. And why 5? Because odd numbers look more natural than even numbers. If I cut 6 petals, it would look too structured and not as natural as 5. And then I just simply hold the turnip sideways. I hold my paring knife strong in my fingers, and I just work it around. I'm not cutting all the way through the bottom, but I'm just carving out a layer inside of those petals that I just cut, like that. And then as I go in, I just keep working in. I go now in between those petals, I want to cut my next petal, and I try to do 5, once again cutting in at an angle, but not all the way through. And then I just simply keep doing that same technique. I cut in and around, but not all the way through the bottom. and I'll just take out another ring of the turnip. I can do the same thing with pretty much any kind of a harder, dense vegetable, like a rutabaga or a radish. You'll see that used quite a bit. I've even seen it done with potatoes, although you got to be careful because they do turn brown. All right, and I just keep doing that same method each time. And then I peel out each new layer. As you can see, I'm trying to go more in and not up the radish or the turnip as well. So you can see it looks fairly easy, but I guarantee you the first time you go to do it, it's going to take a good bit of practice to get to a point where it makes sense. Now, once I have the flower cut, one of the techniques I like to show is to take a beet, and I'm just going to cut off a nice fresh portion of the beet so I have a good bit of the beet juice going on. If you look at that, it's kind of hard to see the petals. So what I do is I just brush it across the beet, and it highlights the tips of the petals so they come out more. I can also, if I wanted a different color flower, I could soak this in some ice water with a little bit of food coloring in it to make it yellow. So there's different techniques that you can do, but that's one of the basic techniques there. Okay? And finally, going a little bit bigger, I'm going to show you how to do these large flowers out of the cantaloupe. This is actually quite a dramatic presentation. As you can see, it adds a lot of height, adds a lot of dramatic color to the presentation. In the interest of time, I've actually gone ahead and started to cut the things I have to do, but I left one to show you. I want to actually take my paring knife, and as you can see, I start at a point and I work my way around like a crown, but I do it more curved, not just straight up and down. And then inside each crown, there's two more layers that I've cut. So basically what I have left here is the last crown to cut, and I want to try to start in the middle here, and I want to work my way down. As I cut down, I'm cutting deep enough into the cantaloupe that I'm going all the way into the seed pod so the cantaloupe will separate. But as you can see, I'm trying to end up where that last point ends down here. And then finally, I just need to I put my finger, I'm holding my knife like a pencil, and I put my finger on the side of the blade like a depth guide, and I just work my way inside those crowns that I just cut. But I'm not going in as deep, and you'll see why in just a second. All right? So you can see it's not really a difficult technique. It just takes a lot of patience and a lot of practice to get the shape down that you're looking for. Okay? So there's my last bit of cuts that I need to make. And then when I separate the cantaloupe, if it doesn't come right apart, just make sure you've cut all the way through. As I separate it, you'll see that looks pretty good itself, but I'm going to take the seeds out with a spoon, just scraping them into my garbage bin here, making sure I get all those seeds out. Okay, and then to finish it, I take my paring knife once again, and I want to cut along this line right here where you see the separation between the green and the fruit itself. So I want to try to stay as close to that as I possibly can, and I just simply cut all the way down to the bottom. And you'll see how this separates as I get that done. Okay, and then I just simply take and I pull out those cuts just like that. That's what adds the depth and adds that extra bit of dimension to the presentation, just like that. Okay, so you can see how it all comes together. There's some other techniques that I have on here that are fairly basic cuts. I have this is a whole head of red cabbage that I've just simply peeled the outside leaves off. And you can see I've used those. I just cut them into a leaf shape, as you can see. And I've just soaked them in ice water to get them a little bit fresher and a little more crisp. With a head of cabbage, I just simply took my paring knife and I just cut down from the side into the center all the way around. And then I soaked this in ice water. This was soaked overnight. The longer it soaks, the more the head of cabbage will actually open up. You see that done with the leeks as well. Same thing, you just take your paring knife and you hold it in your finger and you slice up very thin and you soak it in ice water and those will open up just like that. With the pineapple, I did a little bit different. I just simply took the head of the pineapple. First step is always make sure you have the tag off of the greens there. And I just cut it off at an angle like this. I can add what I cut off into the top, but to go around and make the spiral, it's just a series of cuts. Once again, with the paring knife, I take and I cut in, and I want to cut in about halfway down my paring knife, and then I come in and I cut at an upward angle, following that same line, but a little bit wider, and I'll take out actually a nice little strip of the meat of the pineapple just like that. And as you do it and you practice and you get better and better at it, it'll end up looking like that. So, and once again, like I said, I can finish this by simply taking the leaves and making this top piece look more full just by slipping them in where they look best. And that's how I add some dimension there to the top. Just like that. Okay? It's Garde Manger is one of those techniques that it looks quite amazing when you're done with it. And most people, when they see it, they have no idea how we've done that. And they're quite amazed by it. And this is what you would see on buffets and centerpieces on platters. And it's really one of the most artistic parts of being a chef. So have fun with that.